As the wind erodes and the water corrodes, altering everything we think we know, but we don't. It's all temporary, and it used to, but now the thought doesn't scare me or keep my feet from following one after another until I slumber. Then my mind, not my feet, wander and dream of people and places I'll never see again. I've mended as much mental anguish as I can, and now I try to use this language to take these thoughts from my head to my pen. Cause though I don't speak of my dead friends or the circumstances, often the blow never softens or yields. I'm in a desolate field, lonesome stargazing, night blazing, chasing traces of remembrance and reverence of relevant friends and acquaintances, and faceless and nameless names and faces. And while my mind is racing through these photo albums and quotations, all these people and places far from me, for only land and stars I see when I'm outside of the Mile High City, which is not my city, for I was born 1,000 miles northeast of there, in the land of beer and lakes and pistol fire on MLK's birthday, where there is no minorities and segregation's mandatory. But that's a whole nother story altogether, and no matter the weather or hardships that any place brings, I'll still laugh when people shiver and say it's freezing, or say, hey, no, wait, I already had 18 mixed drinks, but I guess it's a Midwest thing, and I'm a mess from a dirty city and brought most of this filth I've gathered with me.
Welcome to another episode of Experience Andy Weins Live. Today, we're going to be talking about the most powerful statements you can make, and they only start with one letter. I statements. When you lead with who you are, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, you will change your perspective of the world one word at a time. Coming up after the verse.
My work labors on as lovers sleep in each other's arms, remaining calm and collect. I begin my self-reflection process of redemption. Honestly, I don't know where this road leads, or if I'm even going. Could be rowing upstream, or worse, chasing my dreams to the peak, to finally be somebody doing something with what I have, rather than saying again and again that I can't and I won't anymore from this day forward. Cause Lord knows the past is set in stone, the present is yours to mold and to use for future uses. I know I'm a nuisance, I'm told, except neither young nor old, nor giant nor gnome. I don't sleep on these streets usually, though I've made thrones of my own. I don't sit well with idle hands, though don't know what to do when I'm home all alone. I'm a menace thrown from society, and as it lies to me, I'll smile silently as others do as they please. I am watching and listening, and I'm grinning all the while, 'cause sometimes all you can really do is smile. So as the work labors on, I'll keep on singing my songs, and this day's never done. We just keep on spinning around that sun, and well, through all these miles and trials, all I've learned to do is smile. Is to smile.
Here we are, episode 45 of Experience Andy Weins Live. Thank you for joining me for another week where we dive into how we're going to change our lives by utilizing the power of language. Every week we kick things off with a moment of gratitude. I have found over the last 6 months, the more I've leaned into gratitude, the more grateful I am, because I'm starting to see the world from a gratefulness perspective. I'm starting to anticipate where I can feel love and I can feel thank yous coming. And so for that, I attribute it exactly as to starting that exercise 6 months ago and joining you every week and sharing those moments. And more people now also come to me with gratitude because it's a level of vulnerability. And so I'm really excited about this moment I get every single week with you guys. So this week's gratitude is really simple. I'm grateful for my fellow business owners that are in the community. So I haven't worked out in a month. That's a long story short. I haven't worked out in a month. I took a couple weeks off because my daughter was in town, and then I took a couple weeks off because I was gone for the last 2 weeks. And then this weekend, I wanted to schedule some appointments to work out this week, and the appointments I wanted weren't available. So I reached out to the business owner, and I was like, "Hey, are you short-staffed? Like, I try to get some appointments. What's going on?" And she's like, "Yeah, somebody's off on vacation. What do you need this week?" And I'm like, "These are the 2 times I need." And so she was able to get me in. And it's because we have a great relationship. I met her through networking 2 years ago. I've been going to the gym for 2 years. I've sent referrals her way. She's leaned in on me when she's had some employee struggles. I've leaned on her when I've had some personal struggles. And I love that relationship. I'm a Sigma male. I'm not one that follows rules that are unnecessary. So I'm not going to go and bitch at the corporate office or use the app or call the office or call the gym in this case and try to work it around. No, I'm going to go to the person I know that can solve the problem. If she says no, she says no. That's right. There's a non-starting. However, I want to go right to the person and get their resolution. And I know on the same token, she can call our company. And because she's another business owner, we've leaned on each other on a personal and professional level. I'm going to take care of her. So I am grateful for all my fellow business owners that also see the world that is full of rules, and rules need not apply to us. So thank you to all my fellow business owners that go out and pave their own path every day. All right, order of business. Second order of business. Podcast. I've been talking about podcasts since it's been working, so I'm going to keep talking about podcasts. I was on a great podcast this morning, a live show, and it was all about your thoughts and the reality, right? And so this is everything that I do in our work, and it's all about how you transform as a veteran by transforming your language. So podcast. You know somebody that has a podcast, I would love to talk to them. And I've also thought about what it looks like. Possibly we roll off another show here where I bring people and we talk about the simplicity of life. So potentially having guests on our podcast or on this podcast. So I'm starting to play with that idea, having these conversations with 2 people, because I know that's what stimulates me the most. So if there's people out there where I would make a great guest on their podcast, please let me know who they are. All right. I statements. Let's get into this, right? I statements are the most powerful statements you can make. When you make an I statement, you are taking ownership of the reality in the world you see. You're not blaming, right? I'm going to start with why not, right? So I have a predisposition to blame others, right? And it sounds something like, you should have ... right? You should have really 2 out of 3 shit words, right? And all I'm doing with the you is projecting onto others, right? And or they should have, whatever, right? I'm thinking of all the shit sentences I start sometimes when I'm operating out of a place of fear, rather with I. And so the reason why I statements are so important is because in order for you, I, to come up with those statements, we have to do that first step, which is reflection. How do I feel about this thing? What about it matters? Why am I talking? I talked about that a couple of weeks ago, right? Why am I talking? Right? What is the point of having this conversation? Right? Why am I opening up in this conversation? And so when I look at it from perspective, I'm going to throw a graphic up here, right? From a perspective of the OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, act. Often when we observe things, we'll make comments about what is going on around us. However, when we start with I statements, it is, I see things this way. I feel this way about a certain thing. So OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. So you start with the observe. What do I feel? What are my thoughts on what's going on? What are my prejudices that I may have? And then orient. Determine your position relative to the stimulus, right? What is going on around you? And are you looking at it from the right perspective? Have you asked all the right questions? What do you need to do to orient to see things from another perspective? What other information do you need to collect? Then the decision making, right? I am going to do this. I have done that. I will do this in the future. That is much more powerful than talk about what you're not able to do. Talk about the uncontrollables in the world. And then finally, the act. I did this. Now, these are the results, right? I chose to make this decision. These are the results. And I will now celebrate the fact that I made a decision. And it goes right then back to observe, right? Did the decision I made and acting on said decision lead to the results that I wanted? because there are things that are going to happen near you in this world, things that are going to happen around you. We talk about those as activating events here, right? So activating events are the things that happen near you. You get to decide at this point when this thing happens near you, right? Do you get into this fear-based reaction where I have no control over my actions? I have no responsibility. It's your fault. Look at what you did. This is what you should have done. This is what you should do in the future, right? Projecting your insecurities on other people. Or do you consciously respond and say, hey, I feel this way when you do this? Often the conversations and conflict we have in this world that are governed by language are with other people. It's a person-to-person conflict. Sometimes it's interpersonal, and this conversation is the exact same. When I have conversation, I take hours every day reanalyzing conversations I've had, analyzing actions and decisions I've made, and how they are, consistent or inconsistent with my North Star, inconsistent with what my ideals are in the world. And when I start using words like you, or I don't know, or I didn't know, or I'm not to blame, I'm being a victim. I'm allowing the situation, the activating event, to control me. I'm operating out of fear rather than consciously, creatively, confidently using my big brain that the good Lord gave me, right? So that I can respond consciously. First, observe, how do I feel about this? Orient, do I have the data to support that? Decide, what do I want to communicate, or what do I want to do moving forward, and how do I act? A lot of people have asked me when I've done presentations recently about how I feel about the word sorry, because I it's a shit word, right? And there's like, oh, you lack empathy, you lack understanding. It's not that. I look at the word sorry as a shit word. It's an excuse. It's leading with loss. It's leading with less versus leading with gratitude. And leading with gratitude is thanking someone, thanking them for being patient, right? When you didn't meet their expectations, or you wronged them, or you hurt them. And it's about acknowledging it. Last week, we talked about the word acknowledge and acceptance and agreement, right? Acknowledging how they felt and then accepting them for who they are. And now it's a two-way street. I acknowledge how you feel, and I accept that I wronged you. And moving forward, this is what I am going to do so that, one of my favorite two words, so that I don't cause you to feel this certain way moving forward, right? I can't make you feel a certain way. However, I can acknowledge that when I do a certain thing, you feel a certain way, right? It's a simple math equation. And now on the flip side, when I'm wronged, I hate apologies. I don't want you to apology. I don't want you to apologize to me. What I'm more interested in is the acceptance of my feelings. And for me, the best way to communicate this is the simple statement, I feel this way. Describe that using good words, great words, in-depth words, not good, fine, bad, okay. What word, right? Search within you. Look up words. Look for, right? I'm very particular about words, as we know, right? What word really describes the feeling that you're experiencing right now? So I feel this way when you action and activity. What we're now doing is removing the person. I'm not telling you, right? Because the inverse of that is you make me feel angry. You make me angry. No, I feel angry. I am angry when you da 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 da. And explain yourself and make it as simple as possible. When you're being mean, well, what the fuck does that mean? When you're being mean, right? I feel angry when you call me names. I felt angry when you said this very particular thing about me. I had a conversation 20 minutes ago in one of our sales presentations where I was being presented information, and they used words that get me twitchy because they use the word waste. And in my industry, right, I'm in the recycling industry. The word waste is a word that is negative in my industry, right? So I felt unheard when they used the word waste in a sales presentation for me. right? Unheard. That's how I felt. I felt marginalized. I felt like the work that I've done for the last 15 years hasn't even been accepted by people that are pitching me on a sales opportunity when they use the word waste. It was that simple. I made the target as small as possible so they can be successful moving forward. When I said it in such a way and they understood it, right? They immediately said, "Oh, we need to remove that word from the slide deck." Absolutely, you need to remove that word from the slide deck. They didn't try to argue with me of, "Oh, that's not a big a deal," right? That's often also what happens when people express their emotions. People want to justify or argue about why a certain person feels that way. The beautiful thing about I statements is no one can argue. They're inarguable when it comes to how someone feels, right? So long as they're operating with the same information. Going back to the OODA loop, right? This is what I observe. Let me take the time to orient. What am I missing? Over the weekend, we had a couple operational failures in our business. And I sent an email out to a few members of our team and I said, "Hey, here are the 3 failures." And at the end, I said, "What am I missing? What can I do better as a leader?" We had the misses already, right? Let's not take the time arguing about the past. We can argue about the future. What can we do moving forward? We had a great meeting today, our weekly L10. I do this show right after I'll say three meetings on Mondays that all challenge me. I still have my headphones on. I don't know why. That challenge me and challenge my mental capacity. And it provides me cannon fodder on the show. Like what drives me, what motivates me, what pisses me off, right? And I use that going into this show. And so we went from operational failures over the weekend to an email to let's have a conversation about it in our meeting today. And we spent 1% of the time discussing the facts of the weekend. And we spent 99% of the time talking about what are we going to do moving forward? How do we get the ball over the line? How do we prevent these things from happening in the future? What ends up happening when you say you did this or you did that? People end up arguing and spending all their time in the orientation or observation realm of the OODA loop, arguing about the facts instead of taking the time to focus on the future. And what it takes is 2 people that are willing to give I statements. I feel this way when you. The other person then can say, "Well, I feel this way when you." Well, now we're effectively communicating our feelings about a particular situation. The other thing that happens is we're taking ownership about how we feel. We're taking ownership about what we did, or in a lot of cases, what we didn't do. "Oh, I missed the mark on this," right? "I didn't know. I operated under this pretense." Hold on. I didn't know. Well, did I ask a question? No, I didn't. All right. I got to take some ownership. Hey, I didn't ask the appropriate question to best understand what was going on. This weekend, no one covered the phones on Sunday, right? We had a plan in place. We put it in. All right. I heard about it on Friday. I go, all right, sounds good. Let's run the plan. And then the phones didn't get answered on Sunday. And I look back, yep, I never asked that question. Who was covering the phones on Sunday? I never asked that question. I could come up with 90 different reasons it wasn't my responsibility or my fault, or this is person to blame and that person's to blame. At the end of the day, I never asked the question. And so now I can say, okay, I did not answer the question. I need to ask those questions moving forward. When I am unsure, unaware, uninformed, it's on me. It's my responsibility to become informed. My challenge to you this week is simple. Start sentences with the word I. Think through what you're about to say. Take ownership and responsibility for all the things that you are observing around you. Ask questions when you get to this, I don't know, I didn't know, I have no idea what they're thinking. No, those are typically go-to default blaming excuse areas that I end up going to when I'm frustrated. Take the time to start sentences with I. And I feel this way when you is a great way to break down some walls of vulnerability when you're interacting with other humans. Because when you express vulnerability, you've now created an environment for the other person to be confident in their vulnerability. On the flip side, when you're vulnerable and the other person's not vulnerable, tells you everything you need to know. They're really not interested in hearing about your feelings. They really aren't looking to acknowledge where you're coming from. Maybe they're not as empathetic as you thought they were. Saying sorry and I'll be better sounds empathetic, sounds comforting. Comfort's a place to go and die. Get uncomfortable with yourself and those around you. Create space where there's discomfort, because within discomfort, we have growth. My challenge to you is very simple this week. Analyze the times in your life in reflection when you showed up to be your best self. Analyze the times when you weren't your best self, when your actions and decisions and even your thoughts were inconsistent with what serves you, inconsistent with your North Star, inconsistent with your goals, dreams, aspirations, and plans. And take some ownership of those times with I. I feel, I thought, I saw, I observed. And start transforming it into, what are you going to do? I will. I am. I'm capable of. Those victorious statements so that you ultimately take control of your life. This week and always, do the fucking thing. Tell the fucking world. Show the fuck up. And we'll see you next week.
Through all these miles and trials, all I've learned to do is smile. Is to smile.